The market of Zeltor was alive with noise, color, and shadows. Across the great plaza, strange creatures shouted prices, argued, and laughed in harsh voices. Lights flickered from high towers, painting the ground in red and green. The air smelled of smoke and metal, and the sound of chains clinking echoed with every step. At the center stood the auction stage, a high platform made of black stone. Here, slaves were sold every day. To the galaxy's rulers, slaves were nothing more than tools. And today, the crowd was restless. They wanted something rare, something powerful, something worth their credits. The announcer, a tall alien with glowing blue eyes, raised his voice. Step forward the next item, brought from the ruins of Earth. The crowd cheered. Everyone wanted to see two guards drag a thin young girl onto the stage. Her wrists were tied with metal cuffs, her clothes were torn, and her face was pale. With dust, she was maybe 16, maybe 17, but in that moment she looked smaller, weaker, as if the world had crushed her already. The announcer laughed. A human girl, weak blood. No claws, no scales, no strength. Worthless to fight, worthless to serve. But perhaps she can clean floors, fetch water, carry your bags. The crowd erupted in cruel laughter. One alien shouted, "Not even worth food." Another cried, "Throw her to the pits." Others joined in, calling her garbage, trash, useless. The girl lowered her head, her long dark hair hiding her face. She felt their voices like stones thrown at her. She had no name here, no family, no place, just a number, a slave number carved into the collar on her neck. The announcer spread his arms. Who will start the bid? 100 credits, 50, 10. Silence. No one raised a hand. The crowd grew louder with laughter. Some turned away, not even interested. Others threw small coins on the ground as an insult. The girl's heart sank. She thought, even as a slave, I am nothing. No one wants me. No one will ever want me. The announcer's smile faltered. He shouted again, 5 credits. Come, 5 credits. At least she is alive. She breathes, she walks. Still, no one. The announcer grew angry. Fine. 1 credit, just 1. Someone take her off my stage before I throw her to the waste pits. The girl closed her eyes. She felt tears burn. But she would not let them fall. Tears would not help. Nothing would help. She was worthless. And then? A hand rose from the back of the crowd. The crowd turned. They expected a fool. It was a man, a human man. His clothes were dark and old, a long coat torn at the edges. His face was hidden in shadow, but scars could be seen across his hands. Looked calm, too calm for this wild market. The announcer laughed bitterly. You, 1 credit for trash. The man's voice was quiet but firm. Yes, I'll take her. The crowd exploded with mocking laughter. 1 credit for garbage. What a fool. Maybe he wants her to polish his boots. The girl opened her eyes, confused. She tried to see his face, but the lights above the stage made him only a silhouette. Still, she felt his gaze on her. Unlike the others, his eyes did not laugh. They did not hate. They simply looked, knowing. The announcer shook his head. Sold. For 1 credit, worthless girl now belongs to this worthless man. The guards shoved the girl forward, almost throwing her off the stage. She stumbled and fell at the man's feet. Her wrists were still bound. The man bent down, cut the metal cuffs with a hidden blade, and helped her stand. His touch was strong, steady, not cruel. The girl whispered, her voice cracked. Why? Why did you buy me? I am nothing. The man said nothing at first. He just looked at her. His eyes, dark and heavy, seemed to carry secrets of battles long past. Finally, Kay said softly, Because you are not nothing. The girl blinked. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She wanted to ask more, but the man had already turned, guiding her out of the crowd. Behind them, the crowd kept laughing, but some whispered to each other. Why had he bought her? What did he see in her? The girl walked beside him, her chains gone, but her heart still heavy. She could not understand. She felt small and lost, but deep inside, a tiny spark flickered. A spark of hope, faint but alive. Maybe, just maybe, she was not worthless after all, and that thought frightened her more than anything. The market's noise slowly faded behind them. The man walked with steady steps, the girl following close, still afraid to speak. Around them, tall towers of steel rose into the sky. Strange machines hovered above, carrying goods and weapons. Everywhere, people stared at them, some mocking, some curious. The girl kept her head low. She had been bought for 1 credit. Less than a loaf of bread. Less than a broken tool. She wondered if this man was mad. Why would anyone waste even a single coin on her? Finally, she whispered, "Why did you take me?" The man did not stop walking. His long coat moved with the wind. His voice was calm but heavy, like a door creaking open after many years, because no one else would. The girl frowned. That does not make sense. I am nothing. I cannot fight. I cannot work. You will regret it. The man glanced at her, his scarred face still hidden in shadow. Do you think I care what others say is worthless? His words confused her even more. She wanted to ask who he was, but fear held her tongue. They reached the landing docks, where ships rested like sleeping beasts. The air smelled of oil and smoke. The man led her to a small ship, black and worn, its surface covered with old battle marks. It did not look like much, but it felt alive somehow, as if it had seen many wars. The girl hesitated at the ramp. She had never stepped on a ship. Before, her life had been cages, chains, and silence. Now, freedom seemed only a step away, yet it frightened her. The man noticed. Are you coming, or will you stay here to be sold again? The girl's heart pounded. She walked up the ramp. Inside, the ship was dim, filled with old equipment and blinking lights. The walls hummed softly, and the air smelled of metal and dust. It was not warm, not welcoming, but at least it was not a cage. The man sat in the pilot's chair and pressed a switch. The engines roared awake, shaking the floor. The girl gripped the side rail, her eyes wide. She had never felt such power before. The ship lifted from the ground, rising into the night sky. Through the window, the city of Zeltor grew smaller, its towers fading into distant lights. The market where she had been mocked and sold was now only a shadow. For the first time in her life, the girl felt she was leaving her past behind. Still, doubt gnawed her. She looked at the man. What do you want from me? The man's hands moved across the controls with skill. He did not look at her when he answered. Nothing. For now, you rest. Eat. You look half dead. The girl stared at him, stunned. Every master she had known before demanded work, demanded obedience, demanded silence. But this man, he demanded nothing. Then why? Why spend even 1 coin on me? She asked again, her voice shaking. Finally, the man turned to her. His eyes were sharp, like blades that had cut through war. Scars lined his face, telling stories she could not yet understand, because I saw something they did not. The girl froze. What did you see? The man leaned closer, his voice low, almost like a secret. A spark, small, almost gone, but still there. Others only saw ashes. I saw fire waiting to rise. The girl's chest tightened. No one had ever spoken of her like that. To everyone else, she had been trash. But this man, He saw something she could not even see in herself. She whispered, "I am afraid." The man nodded. "Good. Fear means you are still alive. The dead feel nothing." His words stayed in her mind long after he returned to steering the ship. Hours passed as they flew through endless space. Stars stretched across the black sky, shining like silver dust. The girl pressed her hand against the cold window, staring at them. She had only ever seen the stars through cages before. Now they were wide and endless, like they belonged to her. The ship's computer beeped softly, breaking the silence. A warning flashed across the screen. The man frowned. "They are tracking us." The girl's stomach twisted. "Who?" "Hunters," he said simply. "They do not like when slaves escape, especially not humans." Fear rushed back into her veins. She stepped back, shaking. "They will catch us. They will kill me. You should leave me behind." The man turned to her, his eyes burning with quiet fire. "I do not throw away what I choose." The ship dived sharply, engines screaming as stars blurred outside. The girl stumbled but held onto the chair. Her heart raced faster than the ship itself. In that moment, she realized two things. First, this man was no ordinary buyer. He was dangerous, skilled, and unafraid. Second, he had chosen her, and only her. The crowd had laughed. The auctioneer had mocked. She had believed herself worthless. But this man, this stranger, saw something different, and though she could not yet understand what it was, a strange thought began to grow inside her. Perhaps his choice was not madness. Perhaps it was destiny. The hum of the ship filled the silence. Stars drifted past the windows like silent witnesses, watching two humans who had no reason to trust each other. The girl sat on a small metal bench in the corner of the cabin. A thin blanket covered her shoulders. She had eaten for the first time in days, and though her body was weak, her mind was restless. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the market again, the laughter, the insults, the word worthless echoing like a curse. But now she was not in a cage. She was flying among the stars. Still, fear did not leave her. Who was this man? Why had he chosen her? The man sat at the pilot's chair, silent as stone. His eyes never left the screens. His hands moved with skill, adjusting controls, guiding the ship through endless black. His presence filled the cabin, heavy but steady. The girl whispered, almost to herself, "Why me?" He did not answer. She lowered her head. Maybe he had already forgotten her question. Maybe she was just a burden, even here. Hours passed. The ship moved deeper into space, away from the markets, away from the laughter. Slowly, her eyelids grew heavy. She leaned against the cold wall and drifted into uneasy sleep. Her dream was strange. She stood in darkness, but stars burned around her like fireflies. Voices whispered in a language she did not know, yet she somehow understood. They spoke of war, of endings, of a path she must walk. Then she saw flames, a giant ship burning, tearing apart. Screams echoed. She reached out her hand and suddenly, light burst from her fingers, blinding her. She woke with a cry, sweat covering her face. The man turned sharply. What happened? She shook her head, trembling. A dream? It felt real. Too real. The man's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Later, when she tried to steady her breath, she stood near the control panels. Strange lights blinked across the surface, forming patterns she could not read. Yet, something inside her stirred. She lifted her hand slowly, almost without thought, and touched the glass screen. At once, the lights shifted. Lines of alien symbols rearranged themselves, glowing brighter. The ship's engines hummed louder, as if answering her touch. She gasped and pulled her hand back. The man rose from his chair at once. His voice cut the air, low and sharp. "What did you do?" I don't know," she stammered. "I just touched it. It moved on its own." He stepped closer, his scarred face tense, his eyes burning with something she could not name. Not anger, not fear. Something deeper. "Show me," he commanded. Her hands shook. I can't." "You can," he said firmly. "Do it again." Hesitantly, she reached out. Her fingers brushed the panel. Again, the lights shifted, symbols spinning and forming new paths. The ship's systems came alive, doors unlocking, engines adjusting, weapons charging. The man's jaw tightened. For the first time since she had met him, his calm mask cracked. "It's true," he whispered. The girl pulled her hand away, frightened. "What is true? What's happening to me?" The man's eyes locked on hers. His voice dropped, heavy with secrets. "You are not worthless. You are a key." Her breath caught. A key. He nodded slowly. Some humans are born with a gift. They can touch machines, even alien machines, and make them obey. The empires fear this power. That is why your kind was broken, scattered, enslaved. They hide the truth by calling you worthless. But in truth, he stepped closer, his eyes burning into hers. You are dangerous. To them, and maybe to everyone. The girl's knees weakened. Her heart raced. Dangerous. She had never even been able to protect herself. She had always been powerless. And now he was telling her she could control ships, weapons, machines. "I don't believe you," she whispered. "You just saw it," he replied coldly. "Believe what your own eyes show you." Tears stung her eyes. "But I don't want this. I don't want to be hunted." The man leaned closer, his voice sharp but steady. "You don't get to choose what you are. You only choose what you do with it." The words struck her like lightning. Before she could answer, alarms suddenly blared. The ship shook violently, throwing her against the wall. Red lights flashed across the cabin. The man cursed and rushed back to the controls. They found us. On the screen, ships appeared sleek hunters, their weapons glowing, their engines burning with blue fire. The girl froze, terror gripping her chest. "It's the slavers. They're coming for me." The man's hands flew over the controls. But his voice was calm. "No, they're coming for what you are." The ship rocked again as blasts struck the hull. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The man turned to her, his face hard. "Listen to me. You can run your whole life, or you can fight. Right now, I need you to fight." The girl shook her head, trembling. "I can't." "Yes, you can." He roared. "Touch the ship. Feel it. You are its key. Without you, we die." Her heart pounded. Fear screamed inside her, but something else moved beneath it, a spark, like he had said. A fire, waiting. She reached out, her hand trembling, and pressed it to the console. This time, the ship answered fully. Lights blazed, weapons charged, engines surged. She felt its pain, its strength, its hunger to survive. The ship was no longer just metal. It was alive, and it was with her. The girl gasped. I feel it." The man's eyes flashed with something like hope. Then, fight. And as the enemy closed in, the girl realized her life would never be the same again. The enemy ships swarmed closer, their blue fire engines glowing like hungry eyes. The girl pressed her hand to the console, trembling, but the ship seemed to hum with her heartbeat. She felt its systems, its power, its fear. It was strange, like touching the soul of a machine. The man's voice was sharp, commanding. "Hold them off. Guide the ship." "I don't know how," she cried. "Yes, you do. Stop thinking. Feel it. She closed her eyes. The console pulsed under her palm. In her mind, light stretched out like rivers of stars. Each river connected to a weapon, an engine, a shield. She reached for one hesitant at first, then stronger. Outside, the ship rolled sharply, avoiding a beam of energy that would have torn them apart. The girl gasped. I did that. Good, the man said, his scarred face calm even as alarms blared. Now do it again. Enemy fire rained down. The girl moved her hand and the ship moved with her. Her fear turned into focus. Beams missed. Rockets exploded into nothing. With each second, she felt more connected, more alive. Finally, one enemy ship came too close. The girl's mind screamed, strike now. And before she even realized it, the weapons fired. A blast tore through the enemy's hull, flames lighting the dark. The girl staggered back, her hand trembling. She had destroyed a ship. She, the worthless girl. The man's eyes narrowed, watching her. His voice was low, almost like a secret prayer. So, it's true. The remaining hunters pulled back, regrouping. Their leader's voice crackled across the comms. Human key detected. Capture. At all cost. The girl's chest tightened. They know what I am. The man shut off the channel, his eyes burning. Of course they do. They've been looking for you all along. Silence fell inside the cabin, broken only by the ship's low hum. The girl clutched her chest, shaking. Tell me the truth. What am I? The man turned in his chair. For a long time, he said nothing. His face, scarred by battles long past, was heavy with shadows. Finally, he spoke. You are not worthless. You are the reason humans were enslaved. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? He stood and walked closer, his voice steady but dark. Long ago, before the fall of Earth, the galaxy feared us. Not because we were strong, not because we had armies, but because of people like you. Human keys, rare, hidden, but powerful. You can touch any machine, even alien ones, and bend it to your will. The girl shook her head. That's impossible. You just did it, he said sharply. You turned this ship into your weapon. You connected with it. No one else can do that. Her hands trembled. She remembered the market, the laughter, the word worthless. All of it had been lies to keep her blind. The man's voice grew heavier. The empires feared your kind. So they destroyed Earth. They scattered the survivors. They called you trash so no one would ever discover the truth. The girl's heart pounded. Then, all this time, humans were enslaved not because we were weak, but because we were dangerous. Yes, his eyes locked onto hers. And now you understand why they want you dead or chained. The girl stepped back, her body shaking with fear. She felt like the floor was vanishing under her feet. Everything she believed about herself was false. She wasn't worthless. She was hunted. I don't want this, she whispered. I don't want to be their enemy. I just want to live. The man's face softened, only slightly. No one gets to choose their blood. Only what they do with it. Tears stung her eyes. Why me? He looked at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, he said, because you survived, and because you are the last hope of your people. Her breath caught hope. The man's voice grew stronger, a commander's voice. Humans once stood proud. Now they are broken, scattered across the stars, mocked as worthless. But you, if you resif, you learn to master what you rue could change everything. You could turn the chains into fire. The girl's chest tightened with both fear and something else. Something she had not felt in years. A spark. The ship rattled as another blast hit the shields. The hunters had regrouped and were closing in again. The man returned to the pilot's seat, his voice firm. "This is your choice now. Hide, and you will be nothing but prey. Fight, and you will be hunted but free." The girl stared at her. Trembling hands, she remembered the laughter at the auction. Worthless. She remembered the moment she touched the console and felt the ship's power. Her heart raced. Could she truly be hope? Could she be more than a slave? She stepped forward, placing her hand on the console again. The ship responded instantly, lights blazing. She looked at the man, her eyes no longer only afraid. "Teach me," she whispered. "Teach me how to fight." For the first time, the man smiled a small, grim smile that carried both sorrow and pride. "Then hold on," he said, "because the galaxy is about to learn the truth they tried to bury." And as the ship roared forward into the storm of enemy fire, the girl felt the weight of her destiny pressing down, heavy but unbreakable. She was no longer worthless. She was the secret the galaxy feared. The blackness of space lit up with fire. Enemy hunters spread out, sharp and fast, like predators circling their prey. Their weapons glowed, hungry to strike. Inside the ship, the girl's hand pressed firmly against the console. Her heartbeat raced with the pulse of the engines. She felt every vibration, every flicker of power. The ship was alive under her touch, and it waited for her command. The man glanced at her, his scarred face calm but tense. "They will not stop. They know. What you are now, if they capture you, it's over." Her throat tightened. "Over. For me. For all of us," he said flatly. The first blast came. A burning beam tore across their shields, shaking the ship violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The girl gasped and stumbled, but the man gripped her arm. "Focus," he barked. "The ship listens to you. Don't fear it, control it." She swallowed her panic and placed both hands on the glowing panel. This time, she did not hesitate. The lights surged brighter, flooding her vision with streams of data and movement. In her mind, she saw the hunters as glowing shadows moving through the dark. She felt their weapons locking onto them, their engines pushing faster. She also felt her own ship's shields, its cannons, its wounded frame like a body battered but still strong. The girl whispered, "I see them." The man's eyes narrowed. "Then make them miss." The hunters fired again. The girl gasped and pushed her thoughts into the ship. The vessel rolled sharply, diving through a field of asteroids just ahead. Rocks the size of mountains floated. Silently, deadly if struck. The enemy followed, but the girl's connection guided them like a thread of instinct. She twisted left. The ship curved. She pulled back. The ship rose between two spinning boulders. Blasts of plasma slammed into rock instead of their hull. Her chest rose and fell with each movement. Sweat glistened on her brow, but her eyes burned with focus. For the first time, she wasn't running because someone dragged her. She was running because she chose to. One hunter drew close, engines flaring. Its weapons locked onto their tail. The man shouted, "Strike now!" Her mind screamed back. "How? Trust yourself," he roared. The girl clenched her fists and focused on the ship's weapons. She felt the cannons as if they were her own arms. She raised her hand, and the ship obeyed. Twin blasts shot out, slamming into the hunter. The enemy ship spun into an asteroid and exploded in a flash of fire. The girl staggered back, her chest heaving. I killed them." The man's voice was steady, cold. "You survived. That's all that matters." But there was no time to breathe. More hunters poured into the asteroid field, weaving around the rocks. Their formation was tighter now, more dangerous. The girl's voice shook. "There are too many." The man's eyes burned with steel. "Then you must become more." Her fear threatened to crush her, But then she remembered the mark at the laughter, the insults, the word worthless. If she gave up now, she would prove them right. If she fought, she would prove them wrong. She pressed her hand harder to the console. The ship answered like a loyal beast, roaring louder, faster. She felt her fear melt into fire. Then let's fight. She whispered. The chase became a storm. The girl flew through the maze of asteroids, guiding the ship with impossible turns. Hunters crashed into rock, their flames lighting the void. Yet still, more came. Beams scorched past them, shaking their shields. Every blast echoed in her chest. Every dodge sent pain through her arms. She was not only flying the ship, she was the ship. Their lives were tied together, one heartbeat, one will. At last, they burst out of the asteroid field into open space again. But waiting ahead were more. Hunters, a whole fleet this time, the man cursed under his breath. They've called reinforcements. They won't stop until they have you. The girl's strength faltered. Her hands trembled. I can't do this. Not against all of them. The man turned, gripping her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. His voice was sharp, cutting through her panic. Listen to me. You were not saved to hide. You are not worthless. You are the reason they are afraid. Use it. Her chest burned. With his words, she closed her eyes, pushing deeper into the ship's systems. Deeper than before. And then she felt something new. A hidden core inside the ship pulsed with strange energy. Buried deep, forgotten. She reached for a hand. The ship's heart opened to her. Suddenly, power surged. The weapons glowed brighter. The engines roared like thunder. The hunters hesitated, scanners warning them of something new. The man's eyes widened. You found it? Found what? She whispered. He smiled grimly. The weapon they swore was lost. This ship was built for a key, and now it has one. Again, the hunters opened fire. The girl raised her hand instinctively. The ship unleashed a storm of energy, beams tearing across space with impossible precision. Enemy after enemy exploded, their wreck scattering into the dark. The girl cried out, her body shaking with the effort. When the light faded, silence returned. Only debris floated where the hunters had once been. Her hands slipped from the console. She staggered back, gasping, her knees weak. The man caught her before she fell. His voice was low, almost proud. You've done what no one believed possible. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't understand how, or why me. He looked at her, his face grim but steady. Because you are not the galaxy's mistake. You are its secret. And now, you are its target. The girl trembled, but deep inside, the spark inside her burned brighter than ever. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. The battlefield was silent now, broken ships drifting like ghosts. Sparks and smoke floated through the dark as if space itself still remembered the violence. The girl sat on the floor of the cabin, her chest rising and falling, every muscle trembling. She had fought. She had destroyed. She had survived. But her hands shook as she looked at them. These were not the hands of a warrior, not the hands of a hero. She was still the same girl who had once stood on that auction stage, mocked as worthless. Or was she? The man worked at the controls, guiding the damaged ship away from the wreckage. His voice was steady, though his eyes were sharp. You saved us. Without you, we'd be drifting among their ashes. The girl hugged her knees, her voice breaking. I don't feel like a savior. I feel wrong. I killed them. He turned to her, his scarred face hard but not cruel. If you hadn't, we would be dead. War doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It never has. She bit her lip. But I don't want to be a weapon. You're not a weapon, he said firmly. You are a human. And that makes you more than they will ever understand." His words struck something deep inside her. She thought of the market, of the laughter, of the word worthless. She had believed it, carried it like a chain around her neck. But now, for the first time, she felt the weight cracking. Days passed as they traveled through unknown space. The girl slept little. When she closed her eyes, she heard voices, machines whispering, ships calling, stars burning. She did not understand them, but she felt them. The man noticed and began to teach her. "This ship responds to you because you listen," he explained. Keys are not born with control, they are born with connection. Control comes with practice. He showed her how to steady her breathing, how to focus, how to reach into the ship without drowning in it. Each day, she tried. Sometimes she succeeded, sometimes she collapsed. But each time, she rose again. "You're learning faster than I did," the man admitted one night. She blinked. You were a key too." For the first time, his face softened with memory. "No, I was only a soldier. But I fought beside keys. I watched them burn brighter than the stars, and I watched them hunted until none remained." His eyes grew heavy. "You may be the last." Her heart tightened. That was true, then her life was not only her own. It belonged to every human who had suffered, every voice silenced, every dream crushed. One evening, alarms sounded. Another fleet approached. Not hunters this time, something larger, deadlier. Warships, their hulls lined with weapons. The man. Cursed, they've sent an armada. The girl felt panic rise in her chest, but she pressed her hand to the console. She felt the ship's pulse, weak, but still alive. She whispered, "I will not run this time." The man looked at her sharply. "If you stay, you may die." She met his eyes, her own filled with fire. "If I keep running, I was never alive at all." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the man nodded, a grim smile on his lips. "Then fight as if the galaxy is watching, because it is." The enemy surrounded them. Beams of light lit up the void, cutting paths of destruction. The girl's breath came fast, but she reached deep, deeper than ever before. The ship answered her call, its weapons flaring, its shields glowing brighter than before. But it wasn't enough. The warships pressed closer, overwhelming them. Her strength faltered. Pain shot through her body, as if the ship's wounds were her own. She screamed, falling to her knees. The man grabbed her shoulders. "Don't stop. You are more than this. You are not worthless, you never were." His words struck her like lightning. She saw the market. She saw the auction. She saw the laughter. And then, she saw herself not as trash, but as fire. Her eyes snapped open. She rose, pressing both hands to the console. The lights blazed, brighter than ever. The ship's hidden core pulsed with her heartbeat, power flowing like a river. Her voice shook, but grew stronger with each word. "I am not nothing. I am not worthless. I am human." The ship roared, its energy exploding outward in a storm of fire. Beams tore through the armada. Shields collapsed, hulls cracked open. The enemy screamed as their ships fell, one by one. The girl's body trembled, but she held on. Every strike, every blast, carried her defiance. She was no slave, no joke, no trash. She was alive, she was powerful, she was hope. When the battle ended, silence filled the cabin. Debris floated outside, glowing faintly against the stars. The girl slumped against the console, exhausted but unbroken. The man looked at her, pride hidden in his stern face. "Do you see now?" Her voice was weak but clear. "Yes, I see." He nodded. "Then say it. Say what you are." She took a deep breath. Her eyes burned with new strength. I am not worthless. The words echoed in the cabin like a vow, stronger than any chain, louder than any laughter. And for the first time, she believed them. The wreckage of the Armada drifted silently, glowing faintly in the endless black. The battlefield was quiet now, but the echoes of war still lived in the girl's chest. Her body ached, her mind burned, but her spirit was alive, stronger than it had ever been. She sat in the cabin, her hands still pressed to the console. The ship pulsed gently, no longer frantic, as if resting with her. For the first time, she felt not like its prisoner or its master, but its partner. The man stood near her, his scarred face lit by the faint glow of the controls. His eyes studied her with a weight she did not yet understand. Finally, he spoke. You fought. You stood when every chain in your past told you to fall. Do you see now why I chose you? The girl raised her head slowly, her hair falling back. From her face, her voice was tired, but steady. Because I was a key. He shook his head. No, because you refused to break, even when you believed you were worthless. His words sank deep into her chest, cutting through the last chains of doubt. Days passed as the ship drifted into safer regions of space. Repairs were slow, but the girl did not complain. She trained, she learned, and each day she grew stronger. She touched the ship's systems, not with fear, but with focus. She guided its weapons, its shields, its heart, as if they were extensions of her own body. The man watched her closely, teaching, correcting, but also listening. He no longer spoke to her as a slave or even as a child. He spoke to her as a fighter. You carry more than yourself now, he told her. You carry the memory of every human who was silenced. You carry the future of every human still in chains. At night, she lay awake staring at the stars, thinking of Earth, a world she had never truly known but still carried in her blood. She thought of the laughter at the market, the insults that had shaped her life. And she thought of the choice she now faced, to keep running or to rise. One morning, alarms blared again. Not hunters, this time, something larger. A massive slave carrier, its cages filled with rows of humans, chained and broken. The girl's heart clenched at the sight. Children, women, men, all locked in the same chains she once wore. The crowd that had once mocked her had faces just like theirs. She remembered the hopelessness, the silence, the pain. Her fists tightened. We have to free them. The man glanced at her. His voice was calm, but testing. If we attack, we will be outnumbered. They will call reinforcements. I don't care, she said fiercely. I was in those cages once. I will not let them stay there. The man studied her for a moment, then nodded. Then let's show them what worthless really means. The battle began. The girl pressed her hands to the console, the ship roaring with power. Enemy guards poured out, firing beams across the void. But the girl's focus was sharp. She moved the ship like it was her own body, weaving through fire, striking with precision. One by one, the enemy ships fell. Explosions lit the sky, but the girl did not slow. She pressed deeper, guiding their vessel toward the carrier. Last. They broke through its defenses, docking against the massive hull. The man rose, weapons in hand. Stay here, he said. But the girl shook her head. Not anymore. Together, they entered the carrier. The halls were dark and heavy with the stench of fear. Guards rushed at them, shouting, but the girl moved with speed she did not know she had. The ship's whisper was still in her mind, guiding her, steadying her. She grabbed a fallen guard's weapon and fired, her hands no longer trembling. They reached the cages. Dozens of humans stared at them with hollow eyes. At first, they did not believe. Slaves never expected rescue. The girl stepped forward, her voice strong. You are not worthless. Not anymore. Today, you are free. She pressed her hand to the locks. The metal glowed, then snapped open, one after another. Gasps filled the air as chains fell away. Tears streamed down faces that had forgotten how to hope. Children clung to their parents. Old men whispered thanks. A woman reached out, touching the girl's hand, her voice breaking. "Who are you?" The girl stood taller than she ever had. No one, just someone they tried to throw away. Her eyes burned, but they were wrong. When the last cage opened, the man placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was quiet, but it carried pride. "I told you, you were never nothing. You were always the fire waiting to rise." Together, they led the freed humans back to the ship. The galaxy had called her worthless. The markets had laughed. The empires had tried to bury her truth. But now, the truth burned brighter than ever. As the ship flew away from the broken carrier, filled with survivors, the girl stood at the window, watching the stars. For the first time, she did not see them as distant, unreachable lights. She saw them as endless paths waiting for her to walk. The man stood beside her. "What will you do now?" She smiled faintly, but her voice carried strength. "What I was born to do. Fight. Free. Rise." He nodded. Then the galaxy. "We'll remember you." She turned to him, her eyes clear, her voice unshaken. "They will not remember me as worthless. They will remember me as human." And in that moment, as the freed slaves whispered her name with reverence, the girl finally understood her true worth. It was never in what she was called. It was never in the chains she wore. Her worth was in the fire she carried. A fire that could never be sold. A fire that would light the stars.